PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here in the sports and entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada, on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele, and we have a fantastic episode planned for you today, as we are going to be doing a player profile on Nick Waugh, the center of your Vegas Golden Knights. And when it comes to Nick Waugh, he will be an interesting conversation and somebody we definitely need to go over here on Vegas Hockey Hub, here on PR Connections Radio. Go to our website, PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. Look at the dozen shows that are on the network, including Vegas Hockey Hub. So go to PRConnectionsRadio.com and go to the show tab to see all of the amazing content on PRConnectionsRadio.com. For everybody on social media, PR Connections Radio is on there as well. So if you're on YouTube, Facebook, on all social media platforms at PR Connections Radio or PR Connections. If you're on the YouTube channel, welcome everyone. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you are on the Vegas Hockey Hub YouTube channel, welcome everybody. And we post content every single day on the Vegas Hockey Hub YouTube channel. We do shorts, we do compilations, we do short skits, and we do full episodes of Vegas Hockey Hub. So if you're on our YouTube channel, don't forget to turn on the notification bell so not miss any content of Vegas Hockey Hub. And if you're on our social media at Vegas Hockey Hub, follow and like, and we post content every single day. If you want to follow your host, Ian Rachiele, follow me on Twitter at IanRachiele18 or go to our Facebook page, Ian Rachiele. So Nick Waugh is an interesting case. He is someone who has definitely earned his way as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. As you see right there, Nick Waugh holding the championship high above his head, a Stanley Cup winner with your Vegas Golden Knights. But how did Nick Waugh get to where he is now? How did Nick Waugh become an impact player for your Vegas Golden Knights? Well, to start that out, we have to go back to the beginning. We have to go to where Nick Waugh started out as. So, Nick Waugh, he was born in Quebec, and he actually was an interesting fact, by the way. When he played ice hockey out there in Quebec, he actually received a lot of hype going into his junior hockey career. As a matter of fact, in 2012, he received the Quebec. It's live, folks. Anything can happen here. He received the Top Prospect Award in 2012, and he actually ended up being the first overall pick in the KJMHL entry-level draft. So everybody who doesn't know what that is, in Quebec and in junior hockey, they have a draft that teams select players to. They don't just go to a random team. No, they actually have to be selected by a junior hockey league team. So Nick Waugh was selected first in the 2013 KJMHL draft. And prior to the draft, they actually wanted to not play for the Screaming Eagles. They actually wanted to go to a Quebec team. This was a little bit of controversy at the time. So Nick Waugh gets drafted to a team based in Nova Scotia. Well, Nick Waugh and his parents wanted to go to Quebec. So there was a trade that happened with Nick Waugh. So Nick Waugh being the first overall pick, the Cape Breton, they ended up trading Nick Waugh to a different team, and they actually got a first-round pick in 2014, a first-round pick in 2015, and a first-round pick in 2016. If that tells you how good Nick Waugh was as a junior hockey player, he got dealt for not one, not two, but a trio of first-round picks from the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. So how did Nick Waugh do in Quebec? How did he do in the KMJHL? Well, let's just say that Nick Waugh ended up becoming a star player in juniors. Let's just say that Nick Waugh ended up becoming an excellent player in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. So, not only was he named the alternate captain in year one of him playing in the Junior Hockey League, but more importantly, his stats kind of looked very amazing in Quebec. As you see right here on the screen, Nick Waugh had 116 goals, 145 assists, a whopping 261 points, and 176 penalty minutes in 247 games played. For anybody who doesn't realize how great that is, he essentially averaged a point per game in Quebec. He essentially achieved a point per game pace as a junior hockey league player. I also have to mention that he was the leading goal scorer. He was the leading point getter on his team almost every single year. Year one, he had 16 goals, 41 points for his team. Year two, he had 16 goals and 50 points. And then the next 2 years, he absolutely balled out. He performed excellently in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. In 2015-2016, he had 48 goals, 90 points, and 71 penalty minutes. And then the last year that he is playing in Quebec, the last year he's playing junior hockey, 2016-2017, in only 53 games, Nick Waugh would have 36 goals, 80 points, and 46 penalty minutes. And on top of that, he would lead his team to the semifinal of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League playoffs. And in 17 games in the playoffs, he would have 8 goals and 21 points. He was averaging over a point per game in his final year playing juniors. Nick Waugh was establishing himself as one of the best players in junior hockey, and he would be rewarded by it by being selected to the top prospect game in 2015. And not only would he play for the winning team, not only would he be coached by NHL legend and NHL Hall of Famer Bobby Orr, and they would shut out Don Cherry's team 6-0. But he would be on the same team as NHL All-Stars Timo Meier and Connor McDavid, the best hockey player in the world. So from very early on, Nick Waugh showed the talent. He showed that he could be an excellent player in the future of the NHL. And I also want to mention that he was the captain of his team in 2015-2016 and in 2016-2017. And as he was the captain of his team, he would also be named to the All-Star team in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League in back-to-back years. So Nick Waugh went from being an excellent player as in terms of midget hockey, in terms of developing in hockey, to being the first overall pick, to being traded for a trio of first-round picks, to then having an excellent and phenomenal junior hockey career and averaging over a point per game while playing in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. So Nick Waugh, after having an amazing junior hockey career, he would end up getting selected in the 2015 NHL entry draft by the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, if the 2015 NHL draft kind of is familiar to you, it's because here on Vegas Hockey Hub, I mentioned Jack Eichel. He was drafted in 2015. I mentioned Adin Hill. He was drafted in 2015. The 2015 NHL draft has produced a lot of players for your Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, it's actually quite insane how much talent from the 2015 NHL draft came to the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm not even mentioning Keegan Kolazar, who was also drafted in 2015. I'm not even mentioning certain players that were drafted in 2015 because they went to Vegas as well. So for a guy like Nick Waugh to go in the 2015 NHL entry draft by Carolina, it showed that he had a promising future in the NHL. And before Nick Waugh would become a professional hockey player, he would have to join Team Canada, as he was added to the roster in 2015 for the under-18 roster for the International Ice Hockey Federation Championship for Team Canada. And then 2 years later, for the 2017 World Juniors, he would also be for Team Canada, and he would have 14 games, 10 points, and 6 goals during his Olympic career playing for Team Canada. So Nick Waugh ended up having a good junior career. He had a good Olympic career when it came to Team Canada. But how would Nick Waugh play in his professional career? How would Nick Waugh translate to becoming a professional hockey player? Well, he would join the Charlotte Checkers, which was the AHL affiliate of the Carolina Hurricanes, and he would play with them for 3 seasons in Carolina. And what Nick Waugh would do in Charlotte was actually pretty remarkable. So after having only a 2-game stint in 2015-2016, he would join Charlotte in 2017-2018, and in 70 games, he would have 11 goals, 38 points, and a whopping 37 penalty minutes in Charlotte. He would then help the Charlotte Checkers in the playoffs as they would get to the second round before getting bounced in the second round by Lehigh Valley. Nick Waugh the next year, 2018-2019, in 69 games, for the AHL. He would have 17 goals, 19 assists, 28 penalty minutes, and in 19 playoff games, he would have 6 goals, 15 points, and he would help the Charlotte Checkers win the Calder Cup. As you see right here, Nick Waugh would end up winning the Calder Cup, which goes to the champion of the AHL. So the Charlotte Checkers would win the AHL playoffs. They would be the team that would win the AHL championship. And I do want to mention real quick that the 2018-2019 Charlotte Checkers had some good talent on that team. I will mention that that team who won a championship, they were not slouches by any means. So, including Nick Waugh, this team also had players that you might be familiar with. Not only would they have guys like, for example, Valentin Zykov, who was also a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. Not only would they have Martin Necas, who has become a star in Carolina, but you also had Patrick Brown, who would eventually sign as a free agent and play for the Vegas Golden Knights. You had Morgan Geekie, who has become a solid bottom 6 forward in the NHL. And on defense, you had Jake Bean, who has become a steady hand on defense in the NHL. You had Hayden Fleury, who has gone to Seattle and has went to Anaheim and Carolina and a bunch of teams, but has been a solid defenseman in the NHL. And in terms of goaltending, you had Scott Darling, who won a Stanley Cup in Chicago, and you had Colin Booth, who has actually become, a really good goaltender in the AHL. He has been somebody who has really transitioned and has become a solid member of the AHL roster. So when it comes to the Charlotte Checkers, they had a good amount of talent on there, and one of them was Nick Waugh, who you see right there hoisting the Calder Cup. Nick Waugh, his stats playing in Charlotte, he would have 28 goals, 46 assists, and 74 points with a plus 11 and 69 penalty minutes, in 141 games played. So Nick Waugh, in his AHL career, he had about 0.775 points per game. Not bad. This is somebody who did relatively well as a member of the Charlotte Checkers. And the fact that he won the Calder Cup with Charlotte in 2017, 2018 really shows that this is a guy who did really well in his career. And like I mentioned before, he had a cup of coffee in 2015, 2016. Then he played 70 games in 2017, 2018, and then helped Charlotte win the Calder Cup in 2018, 2019. So eventually, Nick Waugh would get his shot. He eventually would get his opportunity to play in the NHL. But when it came to Nick Waugh, and when it came to him as an individual, he would get his NHL debut with the Carolina Hurricanes on the last day of the regular season in 2018. So Carolina would take on Tampa Bay, and he would just play 10 minutes of time on ice for Carolina. But the news that really is important to Vegas Golden Knights fans is what happened on June 27th, 2019. And that is when the Vegas Golden Knights would trade Erik Haula, who was a fan favorite in Vegas at the time. They would trade him to the Carolina Hurricanes for a 4th-round pick and a top prospect in Nicholas Waugh. So this was a very big move at the time. I remember kind of the backlash of this because the Vegas Golden Knights had traded Erik Haula, who had just gotten injured the year before. He had a devastating injury against the Toronto Maple Leafs the year before. So you trade Erik Haula in the offseason, and you trade him for this prospect who a lot of people in Vegas did not know about. However, if you were in the hockey world, if you were someone who was knowledgeable about the game of hockey, you did your research on Nick Waugh. You did your digging on Nick Waugh. You understood why Vegas wanted him. It made a lot of sense why the Vegas Golden Knights went out and traded a middle 6 forward in Erik Haula to Carolina for Nick Waugh and a future 4th-round pick. It made a lot of sense. So, when it came to Nick Waugh, he would do pretty well in his first season playing for the Vegas Golden Knights. So, Nick Waugh would end up being in the AHL to begin the year. So, Nick Waugh doing his first couple of games playing in the AHL, he would have 27 games played, 7 goals, 22 points in Chicago. This also happened to be the last season the Chicago Wolves and Vegas Golden Knights would have a partnership. And I will mention to everyone watching, by the way, I appreciate your comment. Nice update of Waugh. A lot of info fans did not know. He has been a terrific addition to the Vegas Golden Knights. Indeed, he has. So, he ended up having 22 points in 27 games. So, after almost averaging a point per game for your Vegas Golden Knights, he would end up being promoted to the NHL. And Nick Waugh would end up becoming a solid bottom 6 forward here in Vegas. He has been a member of Vegas ever since. So, Nick Waugh, in his first season playing in Vegas, would have 10 points in 28 games, 5 of them being goals. Being on the bottom 6, that's not bad. 5 goals and 10 points. That is very solid. He also would have 20 playoff games and would end up having 8 points in 2020. So, for a guy in Nick Waugh who had never had an ounce of NHL playoff experience before you end up getting a guy like him, he is someone who had his first playoff experience in Vegas and had 8 points in 20 games. Keep in mind, this was the 2020 season where he took on Chicago in the first round, took on Vancouver in the second round, and then lost to Dallas in the conference finals. So, Nick Waugh, he would do pretty well for Vegas the next 2 years. As a matter of fact, his first full season playing in Vegas as a 4th-line center, might I add, he did exceptionally well. he would have a career high 6 goals for Vegas. He would have a career high 15 points in the NHL. And he would actually play in 19 playoff games that year and would have 4 goals, according to a game-winning goal against Montreal, and 9 points in 19 playoff games. So already, Nick Waugh had in 40 playoff games, 17 points. That's not bad for a fourth-line center. For somebody who's a bottom 6 forward to get 17 points in his first 2 playoff series, he did pretty well for your Vegas Golden Knights. And in fact, Nick Waugh did so well for your Vegas Golden Knights that the next year, he would have another breakout year. So in 2021, 2022, he played all but 4 games that year for your Vegas Golden Knights, and he would have a breakout season, 15 goals, which actually was more than he had in the NHL up to that point. He had 24 assists, which was a career high for him, and he would have 51 penalty minutes in that season. Now, the Vegas Golden Knights would miss the playoffs, of course, but they would reward Nick Waugh. The Vegas Golden Knights would end up rewarding Nick Waugh with a 5-year contract at $15 million. So he would get $3 million per season for the Vegas Golden Knights for the next 5 years. So for a bottom 6 forward, that is exceptionally well. So Nick Waugh did his thing. He did what he had to do, and the Vegas Golden Knights helped him and rewarded him with his effort by giving him a new 5-year deal. And I'm going to get back to Team Canada for just a minute because I want to mention that Nick Waugh in 2022 would be selected to Team Canada. So for the 2022 Ice Hockey Federation Championship, he would play for Team Canada. He would score 5 points in 10 games as they would win the silver medal. They would lose to Finland in the championship game. So for a guy like Nick Waugh to then be on the main roster, to be on actual Team Canada in 2022 after having a breakout season in Vegas, it really showed you how well Nick Waugh has been as a player. It showed how good Nick Waugh has been as a performer in the NHL. And Nick Waugh, as we have about 5 minutes left here on the show, when it comes to Nick Waugh, his last season playing here in Vegas, heading into 2023, 2024, Nick Waugh would stay consistent. He would be durable. He would be reliable as a member as the Vegas Golden Knights. Nick Waugh would end up becoming a solid member of the bottom 6, a consistent 4th-line center here in Vegas, as he would score 14 goals, 16 assists, and a plus 10 in 65 games. I also have to mention that when Nick Waugh was with the Vegas Golden Knights in the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs, he did his stuff as well. So, in 22 playoff games, he would have 3 goals, 8 assists for 11 points and 20 penalty minutes. So, he essentially averaged a penalty minute per game in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Anybody who watched the playoffs this past year, you'll understand why. Nick Waugh has been a guy who defends his teammates. He is someone who's great to have in the locker room. He is someone who the Vegas Golden Knights organization is happy to have as a member of his team. And I will mention to everyone watching around the world, I will mention that when it comes to Nick Waugh, he is someone that if you watch in practice, and this is something that we did recently, we recently went to City National Arena to watch the Vegas Golden Knights practice. And when we watched Nick Waugh, he had that confidence to him. He had that type of composure that a hockey player that you like to see from a guy. He's calm, he's cool, he's collected. He is someone who, when he's on the ice, he shows that confidence of, you know what, I know where I need to be. I know where my teammates are going to be. Maybe I'll do some pullbacks. Maybe I'll do some putbacks. When it comes to Nick Waugh, he is someone who can get the job done on the bottom six. And that's what I respect about Nick Waugh. No, he is not somebody that is going to make a statement every single night. Nick Waugh is someone who's not going to shock you. He's not going to surprise you every single night. But what Nick Waugh can do is be a performer when it matters. If you need a goal when it matters, I would rely on Nick Waugh to get it done. If there is someone who's going to make a very good possession, Nick Waugh would be the guy. And more importantly, if you need somebody who could be a bottom six forward for your team and someone who could help win a championship, well, you just saw it. Nick Waugh can be that guy. So in his 4 seasons playing in Vegas, Nick Waugh has had 40 goals, 54 assists, 94 points, and 97 penalty minutes, and over 200 games played as a member of your Vegas Golden Knights. I also have to mention that Nick Waugh, in his first 4 seasons in Vegas, has gradually gotten better as a player. He has become a solid member of the Vegas Golden Knights. And him only being 26 years old means that he's still in his prime. He's in his mid-20s right here, right now in Vegas. So, when it comes to Nick Waugh, I say the future is bright in Vegas. And I will not be surprised if he scores more than 15 goals this year in Vegas. I will not be surprised if Nick Waugh ends up having, let's just say, 16 goals. I'm going to say he's going to have 32 assists. And that will put him at 48 points as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. I will say that Nick Waugh will have to continue as a breakout performer. 16 goals, 32 assists, 48 points. And since he also does like to have some penalty minutes, let's say 25 penalty minutes for a guy like Nick Waugh. So when it comes to a guy like him, my projection would be 16 goals, 32 assists, 48 points for a guy like Nick Waugh. Because he is someone who could put the puck in the back of the net. He is someone who is calm and knows what he is doing. And more importantly, I see a guy like Nick Waugh being a steady hand as a bottom six forward for your Vegas Golden Knights. So this was your player profile on Nick Waugh. This was us discussing Nick Waugh here on Vegas Hockey Hub. Once again, go to our website, vegashockeyhub.com, or go to prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. Check out the dozen shows we have on the network, prconnectionsradio.com, and go to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the PR Connections YouTube channel. And if you are on Vegas Hockey Hub's YouTube channel, turn on notification bell so you don't miss any episode of Vegas Hockey Hub and any of the content we post daily on our YouTube channel. And if you are on any of our social medias, regardless if it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you name it, Vegas Hockey Hub is on there. So go to @Vegas Hockey Hub on all social media platforms and give us a like and follow on there as well. So until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele, and this was us discussing Nick Waugh. And continue watching hockey, go support junior hockey, and go Knights, go!
PR Connections Radio presents